तमो भावा कामलोभादयश्च ये चेतैतैरनाविद्धम् इदं सत्त्वे प्रसीदति।
एवं प्रसन्न
प्रसन्नमनसो
मनसो
भगवद्भक्तियोगता
भगवद्भक्तियोगतः भगवत्तत्त्वविज्ञानं मुक्तसङ्गस्य जायते भिद्यते हृदयग्रन्थिश्छिद्यन्ते सर्वसंशया क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि
दृष्टैवात्मनीश्वरे।
रजस्तमोहते तबे पायिबे निस्ता हृदयेराभद्रसबे गुचिबेताः
दयेरभद्रसते ऊचिबेताः
किकोरे बुझाभो कथा बरोसे ही चाही
बुधाबो कथा भरोसे चाहिए।
ক্ষুদ্রামি দীনহি না কোনো শক্তি নাহি
रुद्रामिति नहीं ना कोनो शक्ति नहीं।
अथ च ये नेछो प्रभु कथा बोली बरे
अथ च इन्हें छो प्रभु कथा बोली बारे।
যে তোমার ইচ্ছা প্রভু করো এই বারে
जे तुम्हारा इच्छा प्रभु को रोए बारे।
अखिला जगत गुरु वचने स अमर
अखिलत गुरु बचन से आमा
अलंकृत करिबार क्षमता तुम्हार
अलंकृत कोरी बार समता तो मान।
तब कृपा हले मोर कथा शुद्ध हबे
कृपा हले मोरा कथा शुद्ध हबे।
শুনিয়া সবার শোক দুঃখ যে গুছিবে
सबा दुख जे गुछीबे।
আনিয়াছ যদি প্রভু আমারে নাচাতে আমি
नाचो यदि प्रभु मारे नचाते।
নাচাবো নাচাবো প্রভু নাচাবো সে মতে
नचाओ नचाओ प्रभु नचाओ से मते।
কষ্টের পুতলিয়া থা নাচাবো সে মতে
अशेर पुतली जथा नचाओ से मते।
भक्ति नाई वेदनाई नामे खूब तरो
भक्ति नाई वेद नाही नामे खूब दरो।
भक्ति वेदांत नामा एबे सार्थक करो
भक्ति वेदांत नामाए भी सार्थक करो। थैंक यू। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमा ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dear Lord, please guide us also that we can become more inspired by your love and become more dedicated to offering our love to you. Hare Krishna. So today we continue in the second part of this Markine Bhagavad Dharma. So let's look through the look at two distant themes over here. That let me do a quick recap of what we have discussed till now. See, broadly, we are discussing Prabhupada's mood or Prabhupada's vision that underlay his mission. And we are trying to internalize that for ourselves. So, what was the vision? Generally, vision is what is associated with our jnanendriyas. It is how we see things, and mission is associated with our karmendriyas. That it is what we do. So we need both a sense of vision and a sense of mission. When we pursue things properly, then we'll be inspired to pursue them also. So yesterday we were discussing more the sense of vision of Srila Prabhupada. That vision was that he is in America, but he feels Krishna. Rather than thinking, I have nothing, at least I have the opportunity. Krishna is merciful to me. And so instead of seeing America as a land of prosperity, he's seeing it as a land of invisible poverty. The lack of meaning and purpose in life. And we discussed also about how there's a combination of practical consciousness and transcendental consciousness. Both need to come together. And it's not that Krishna has put us in illusion. It is Krishna has put illusion in the world so that our love can be tested and it can be trusted. So Prabhupada says that it is by your will that everyone comes under illusion, and it is by your will that people come out of illusion. So let's quickly read the remaining translations, and then we will go to two verses we'll discuss. So when your will manifests as grace, they will break free from Maya's embrace. That is, Tabai Ichha Joy Tadera Uddhar. Who would like to read the translations one by one quickly? Then 7.2.
Then they will understand for sure, O Lord, your message so pure.
Yes, different devotees. Somebody else can read one.
The Bhag
It's one.
the Bhagavatam's message is your descents, though it's your mercy is lovingly sent.
Through it, your mercy is lovingly sent. So I was saying this is Tava Avatar. Yeah.
If they hear your message again and again, they will rise above illusion and pain.
Yes. Now this is the strategy of Srila Prabhupada. See, when the full path might not be clear for us, and most of the times when we have to do some big service, we're just told to go to a new place and build a temple for Krishna. Now, where exactly, how, the big picture may not be clear for us. That is transcendental consciousness. But the small steps need to be clear for us. Okay, what am I going to do? So for Prabhupada, the small steps is he is going to speak Krishna's message. He's going to speak the Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada is not so concerned, oh, these people are from a different religion, from a different educational background, from a different cultural mindset. He's convinced that the message of the Bhagavatam is universal. And so he feels that if they just hear the Bhagavatam, then they will be purified. So in one sense, it's not a, oh, Krishna, I depend on you. I depend on you, but this is what I'm going to do. And we'll see as Prabhupada moves forward, his prayer will also become specific. So, go ahead.
From passion and darkness they will depart and find true peace in a purified heart.
Yes. So he says that. Now here is what Prabhupada has quoted the Sanskrit verses, and he's moved forward from there. So Rajas Tamo Guna era, Sabai. So that whole thing, they're covered by Raja and Tamo Guna, and this is the way Raja and Tamo Guna can be overcome.
Their misconceptions will depart when your message enters their heart.
Yes. So Prabhupada is confident that the message of the Bhagavatam will work. Go ahead. Who has the mic?
How will they grasp your message so soft, so lofty? For that, O Lord, I seek your mercy.
Yes. So see now here what he is saying, that this is the process. But that if they hear the Bhagavatam, they will be purified. But to hear the Bhagavatam, the starting problem was Vasudeva Katha Ruchi Nahi Se Prasanna. So how will they appreciate that message? So that is where his specific prayer will come up. Who would like to read next? Yeah.
Lowly am I, so fallen, so small, I have no strength. O Lord, none at all.
Yeah.
Yes, still you have brought me here to speak your message, O Lord most dear.
Yes. So you have brought me here, and therefore his specific prayer is, go ahead. Who would like to read? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Whatever your will. Yeah.
Whatever your will, O Lord, may it be. Please do it now. Let it flow through me.
So you have brought me here. Now do whatever you like with me. Hmm?
O spiritual master of all the worlds, please become the master of my words.
Hmm. Yeah. You have.
You have the power unsurpassable to make my words understandable.
Yes. And this is the specific prayer he's asking. And the prayer is that your words will work. Your Bhagavatam has potency, but this Bhagavatam, when I am going to speak it, it should be understandable to you, to the people over there. So make my words alankrita koribara kamata tomar. When Prabhupada is using the word alankrut, at one level, alankar can mean beauty. It can mean decoration. It could be humor. It could be entertaining storytelling. It could be poetic flourish in speaking. All those will be considered alankar. But the point Prabhupada is using is, it's not ornamentation of the speech so much as the accessibility of the speech. That, say, when something is decorated, more attention goes to it. So the point is, Prabhupada said that I just want this message to be understandable. So that is the prayer that he's asking. Go ahead. Who did?
Your mercy alone can, O Lord, ensure that my words become potent and pure.
Hearing your message will drive away their lamentation from all distress. They will gain liberation.
Yeah. So he's confident that the message will work. Now, how exactly it will work, how will exactly speak, this is where now finally he's expressing his surrender. So surrender is not like a blind surrender. You could say it is a strategic surrender. This is my strategy, and how this strategy will work, I surrender to you. So now we need to always do our part, and then Krishna will do his part. So Prabhupada, this is the part I want to do. This is the part I will do. Go ahead.
If you have brought me here to make me dance, I'm ready, O Lord, awaiting your glance.
Yes, thank you. Next.
Oh my Lord, just make me dance as is your will. Make me dance.
Yes. Yeah.
As a puppet moves by the master's hands, make me dance, O Lord, as you have planned.
Yeah.
Devotion and knowledge I do not possess. Just faith in your name and its power to bless.
Yeah. So here Prabhupada is expressing his humble confidence over here again. Yeah. Last one.
Now make the name Bhaktivedanta shine, fulfilling its purpose by your will divine.
Yes. So Prabhupada is now thinking that the Krishna Naam Sarthak Koro, make it meaningful. Now this word Sarthak also comes in another celebrated verse. Which is the verse? Bharat Bhumite Hoila, Manusya Janma Sarthak Kari Kara Paropkara. So there Prabhupada is also praying that there it's Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Charitamrita that we should make our life meaningful. So with this, let's look at two themes over here. Let me go to. Yeah. So let's focus on this part. My dear Lord, can you repeat up? Make my life a dance. Be my choreographer. So make me dance, Prabhupada is saying. Who would like to read the first part?
My dear Lord, devotion is deeply personal, a reciprocation between you and me, even when expressed on a public stage. Srila Prabhupada conveys this dynamic through the metaphor of a puppet, praying that you, O Lord, he is puppet master, be his
Yes.
puppet master.
So now, like I mentioned yesterday, we need to have practical consciousness because we want to serve Krishna in this world. And we want to get things done in this world. At the same time, we also need transcendental consciousness because we are doing it for Krishna. So that same theme of, so for example, when we go for book distribution or we are going out for outreach, we're talking with people. So what is understandable to the people? What kind of questions are being asked? We need to be aware of that. So that's practical consciousness. And then at the same time, at the background, we are doing it all for Krishna. So that this is Krishna's message, and I am doing this not just to impress people with how clever I am. I'm doing this so that they can be attracted to Krishna. So that is, we could say, transcendental consciousness. So now that same theme of practical and transcendental consciousness, we could say that we can look at it through the metaphor of a dance over here. Now, if this is the stage on which, say, a puppet is dancing, the puppet, now we'll look at what the puppet metaphor signifies. Now, at one level, if the puppet is dancing, then there is audience. And now the audience is watching the puppet dance. So in that sense, there is a reciprocation between the audience and the puppet which is dancing. Now, of course, the puppet is unconscious, and we'll talk about that a little later. But the point is, while the dance is on the stage for the audience, but here behind there is the puppet master. So now the puppet master is actually making the puppet dance, and at the same time the idea is that the puppet is its primary reciprocation, if the puppet were conscious, is with the puppet master. That okay, this is what if, like, sometimes the dance is dancing and there's a director or the choreographer, they're giving some cue, okay, this way, they know it, but they also have to have the cue for it. So in one sense, while there are both reciprocations, there is a reciprocation with the audience and there is a reciprocation with the puppet master, with the choreographer for the dance. So now, in one sense, visibly, this is much more visibly important. But actually, this is invisibly more important. That, so for us, when we are trying to share Krishna Bhakti, it is important that how people reciprocate with us and how we can present ourselves and act in a way that we will evoke a favorable reciprocation. At the same time, it is also that our primary reciprocation has to be with Krishna. That Krishna, whatever I am doing, it is for your pleasure. So yesterday, Prasanna Thakur was mentioning to me about the serenity prayer. In the Bible, there is that idea that God help me to change the things which I can, the serenity to accept the things which I cannot change, and the wisdom to know the difference. So he was asking whether this is similar to practical consciousness and transcendental consciousness, that changing the things we can and leaving accepting the things we can't, being Krishna conscious. Well, yes and no. It's partly like that. But practical consciousness means more like being aware of the practical reality. So it is that I have something to do. And transcendental consciousness is not just that, okay, what is not in my control, Krishna will take care of it. That's one part of transcendental consciousness. But another part of transcendental consciousness is that whatever I am controlling, that is also in a mood of service to Krishna. So it's not just a like a black and white separation between the two. In one sense, for us, through what we control and through what we don't control, through both we want to be Krishna conscious. That's why practical consciousness is not outside the domain of Krishna consciousness. Being practically conscious is also a part of our Krishna consciousness. So here, now generally, if somebody is performing on a stage, sometimes there might be a small audience, sometimes there might be a huge audience. That happens to anyone whose role is in the public world. When the traveling speaker, some places we may go, there may be 10, 15 people, sometimes maybe 1,000 people might be there. Now, at one level, how many people are coming, how many people are appreciating, that will naturally affect the speaker. But a speaker or a singer or a dancer who is dedicated truly to their art, the audience, in one sense, is secondary. That I am doing this because this is what I'm meant to do. So for Srila Prabhupada, if the audience on the audience watching him on the stage had been the primary thing, then he would have given up long ago. Because 20, 30 years he'd been trying and nobody seemed to be taking him seriously. That he was respected in India as a pious person, or by pious people rather. He was respected by pious people as in India the phrase is a man of God. That he's a sadhu, he's a sannyasi, he's a balaprastha, he's doing God's work. But that their idea was okay, you come to our temple, you speak something, you give us some ashirwad, we'll give you some dakshina, and you can move on. They did not really want to become transformed and dedicated. Even Sumti Moraji, who helped Prabhupada get his ticket to go to America, she told Prabhupada that Swamiji, if you want to speak the Bhagavatam, why do you have to go to America? You just stay in my house. Every evening I'll hear Bhagavatam from you. So that is that there are some many wealthy families. For them, like having a deity or hearing some Bhagavad Gita, it's like a pious ritual. So Prabhupada did not want it to be a pious ritual. He wanted to be it's a transformative practice. So if Prabhupada had been focused only on the audience, he could have become completely discouraged. But if Prabhupada had been oblivious to the audience, I don't care about the audience at all, then what would have motivated Prabhupada to go all the way to America? Prabhupada's spiritual master had said that if nobody comes, preach to the walls. Now, Prabhupada could have thought maybe it is Krishna's plan that for the rest of my life I am meant to preach to the walls. No. Prabhupada was concerned. Prabhupada was concerned about finding the right audience. So it's not that, again, I said the stage of the world is important. It's not that it's unimportant. Last time I had come, I had drawn this thing for us. When we're initially practicing bhakti, the world is very big and often God is very small. So whether people praise me, whether people criticize me, that becomes most important. And God, whether he's pleased or not, that's secondary. Like God is very small. When I was introduced to bhakti about 30 plus years ago, I started talking about it with all my friends and relatives. So one of my uncles, he told me, God, I have a very good relationship with him. I had never seen him much go to a temple or read any spiritual books. So I asked him, what do you mean a good relationship? So he said, mutual non-interference. He is happy there, I am happy here. So now, for many people, God is practically irrelevant. Oh, that's something once in a year to Janmashtami, you go to temple or Ram Navami or something like that. But when we grow spiritually, what happens? The world becomes smaller and Krishna becomes bigger for us. So now that means we are doing this, whatever we are doing it, first and foremost for Krishna's pleasure. Where the world is bigger means that it is, no, sorry, Krishna is bigger means that the Krishna is always the biggest reality. But in our consciousness, Krishna becomes the bigger reality. Sometimes if we are giving a talk and in the talk some very important person is there, maybe it's some VIP who has just come for that talk, or maybe sometimes our spiritual guide or a spiritual teacher is attending the talk. Now we want the talk to please everyone, but we want especially that talk to connect with that person. So that person becomes big in our. Now that doesn't mean we neglect everyone else. So for us, when Krishna becomes bigger, so that is I'm dancing for your pleasure, Krishna. At the same time, we want to serve Krishna through the world. So in bhakti, on one side, a devotee is peaceful because Krishna is my eternal Lord and I am Krishna's eternal servant. And this is what I'm meant to do. So that inner dynamic, that bhajahure mana shinandanandana abhaya charana ravindare. This inner dynamic actually makes us peaceful. That the more as more and more Krishna becomes the bigger reality for us, more and more we will become, this is what my meant to do, will become peaceful in Krishna's service. At the same time, we have a service in this world, and about this service, so this is where we are reciprocating with Krishna through the world, and with respect to this we become purposeful. That peaceful does not mean passive. Hmm? We have a purpose in this world. So many devotees who observed Srila Prabhupada, they said that whether Prabhupada was speaking to one person during a private darshan or Prabhupada was speaking to 20,000 people in the Mahasatsang Mandal program, Prabhupada would be speaking with similar enthusiasm. He was speaking to the audience that was there, but he was also speaking primarily for Krishna's pleasure. So that is the theme that for us, this dance metaphor is that we follow the choreographer, what the choreographer wants us to do, that is primary. Pleasing for doing the dance sequence is important, but of course we want to please the audience also. Not please in the sense of pander to the audience, but please in the sense that they also should get attracted. Hmm? Go ahead. So devotion is personal, means it's between us as persons and Krishna as a person. Would like to read the next paragraph?
Yet you, O love giving and love seeking Lord, do not want us to become lifeless puppets incapable of love. Through this metaphor, Srila Prabhupada conveys not the abandonment of his will, but the alignment of his will with yours. When I voluntarily and lovingly align my will with yours, that harmony becomes as graceful and joyful as a divine dance.
Yes. So now, like yesterday, we discussed various metaphors about the nature of the world, and we saw how each metaphor conveys a particular point. Hmm? And no metaphor can convey the truth completely. So, like that, the puppet metaphor, it does not factor in the point that we want to love Krishna. Hmm? And not only we want to love Krishna, Krishna wants us to love. So now between the puppet and the puppet master, there is no love. So it's all, the puppet is basically a machine. It's robotic. And that is not what Krishna wants from us. When I travel across the world, many times, especially Indians are take the responsibility of parenting very seriously. And some children often feel it's too seriously. But either way, so many Indian parents ask that our children, they are going up, they may go away from a culture, they don't listen to us. So sometimes when parents express such concerns, I ask them, now, would you like to replace your child with a perfectly obedient robot? Now, mm, some parents say we would like to have a robot in addition, not in replacement. Because, see, the point is that we want our children to listen to us. But that listening, it's not that we want them to take away their free will. It's that what we want is that they make good choices. Hmm. And yes, we may have more experience, we may have more wisdom. So what we tell them is likely to be a better choice. May not always be, but it is likely to be. So the thing is that if even an ordinary parent does not want to take away the free will of their child, why would Krishna, the supreme parent, want to take away our free will? Krishna has not given us free will so that we give it up. Krishna has given us free will so that we can align with him lovingly, so that we can harmonize with him. And that's why it's not the abandonment or the rejection of free will. Free will is not a bad thing. Hmm. So the puppet metaphor does not convey a lack of free will. It conveys more, the emphasis is for the alignment. It's what the puppet master wants. That's what the puppeteer, that's what the puppet does. So when we voluntarily and lovingly align our will with the Lord. Now, now this raises a question with respect to the puppet master. The puppet master directly pulling, and then the puppet knows what to do. But in our case, how does it work? How does it work? So is it that, where was I? I was in Canada. One devotee asked me, is Krishna playing a cruel joke with us? Not a devotee, was a new person. He said, is Krishna playing a cruel joke with us? Krishna says that if you don't do my will, you will be ruined. But what is my will? Unless you are pure, you don't come to know about it. So it's like what we are meant to do, we don't know clearly what we are meant to do. Now we may say, yes, we take guidance from the spiritual master, but the spiritual master is not there to guide us in making every choice in life. So how do we understand this? That if we are meant to be like a puppet, but then the puppet master is not giving clear guidance. So the point again here is when we say alignment with Krishna's will. So aligning with Krishna's will is not necessarily like one thin line. This is what you have to do. If one choice you make wrong, your life is ruined. It's not one, it's not like one thin line. It is a broad direction. It is a broad direction. That means what broad direction? That Krishna wants us to move from material consciousness to spiritual consciousness. If we look at the example of Arjuna, Arjuna surrendered to Krishna. Hmm. And Karishye Vachanam Tava. He did say that, but it is not that after Arjuna surrendered to Krishna, every arrow that Arjuna was shooting, Arjuna asked Krishna, do I have your permission to shoot this arrow? Can I shoot it over here? Should I shoot it over there? No, Arjuna was his own person. Arjuna was using his individuality, using his intelligence, using his expertise. So, when we talk about doing Krishna's will, it is not that it is Krishna wants to be the micro controller of every one of our choices. Hmm. See, this is a significant difference. There's a difference between Krishna controlling each one of our choices and each one of our choices being for Krishna's pleasure. Hmm. So when there is a loving relationship between two people, then it is not that one person is controlling each of the choices of the other, but the other person is, if they are aware, oh, this person, I love this person loves me, then I will make my choices in a way that will be pleasing to that person and won't be displeasing to that person. And I will avoid those choices which are displeasing to that person. That's the theme of anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam. So the idea is, when I say it's a broad direction, through every situation we are in, we need to be going closer to Krishna and not further away from Krishna. So the example we could have is that if there's the Ganga, and if the Ganga is moving towards the ocean from the mountain, the Ganga is fixed in purpose. But at the same time, it can be flexible in path. And if you consider the Brahmaputra river, that just goes all the way across the Himalayas and then it goes down to the Bay of Bengal. So its path is not straight at all from the mountains. So the idea is that if Krishna is ultimately like the ocean and we are like the river, more specifically, our consciousness is like the river, then the Mayavadis use this metaphor to say that we merge into Krishna. But the devotees use that metaphor to that our consciousness keeps flowing towards Krishna. Tvai me ananya vishaya matir madhupate sakrit ratim udvahatad adha gange vaughamudanvati. This is the Ganga keeps flowing. Kunti Maharani says, let my consciousness keep flowing toward you. So when we say doing Krishna's will, it is more a matter of an overall direction. It is not that every specific choice Krishna wants to control it. So, in one sense, you could say, so answering that question, that is Krishna playing a cruel joke on us, that saying that you have to do my will, if you don't do my will, you will be ruined. Machchitta sarva durgani mat prasadat tarishasi atachettam ahankaran na shoshasi vinangshasi. If you don't listen to me, you will be ruined. But what I am saying, you are not pure enough to listen to it. So it's not like that. So the point is, that we can't always know for sure what is Krishna's plan. That is also a part of Krishna's plan. Let me repeat this. That we can't know Krishna's plan fully or clearly, that is also a part of Krishna's plan. Now, how is that possible? Say, no, I have a devotee friend whose brother is, I have a friend who is an Israeli devotee, and his friend is, this devotee's brother is in the Mossad. Mossad is their Israeli intelligence agency. So now what they do is that if they have some mission, so for example, when Israel had attacked Iran, so they had their spies inside Iran and they just disabled all their defense systems. So they had anti-aircraft missiles, but none of them were working. All of them were damaged, sabotage from inside. And Israel had just complete dominance over there. So now there were many agents who were there inside, and each agent had a part to play. But none of the agents over there knew what the full plan was. Because the point is that if any of them gets caught, and then they will be tortured, and then everybody will be endangered, and the whole plan will be jeopardized. So everybody has a part, and everybody has an important part. But the part does not know the whole plan. And that the part does not know the whole plan is by plan. It's intentional. So now we could say, as a person rises up in the intelligence hierarchy, the person becomes more and more trustworthy, then they can know more and more of the plan. So like that, as we rise higher and higher in purity, we can know more and more. We can better sense Krishna's plan. But that does not mean that even a pure devotee ever becomes omniscient. So even a pure devotee is not always omniscient. Prabhupada himself tried many things. And many things did not work, many things worked. So so when we're talking here about the alignment of the will, that this, how do we align with the intelligence we have? We try to make the best choice we can. So with whatever intelligence we have, in whatever range of choices we have, we try to make the best choice, the choice that will take us closer to Krishna. Let's try to understand this. Let's say if I am here right now, now one choice goes this way, one choice goes this way. Now I may consider, where should I go? So now in some cases it may be clear that a particular choice takes us closer to Krishna, a particular choice will take us further away from Krishna. If that is clear, then definitely we need to choose that which brings us closer to Krishna. Now, in some cases, we may not be sure which is so clear. Okay, do I take a job in this city or take a job in that city? Or if you have two services, should I do this service or should I do that service? Or if you have opportunity to speak about Krishna, we have to do book distribution. Should I go here or should I go here for book distribution? These are all every day we are making choices. And sometimes we may get guidance and instruction from others. But the point of bhakti is not that we become dependent on instruction. See, in general, as we grow in bhakti, the spiritual growth also means there is an evolution of instruction. Evolution of instruction means that initially the instructions that we get are like a manual steps. Manual means, I'm saying not manual in terms of physical steps. Manual means like a manual to do's. Do this, don't do this. That's how initially you're told, okay, wear tilak this way, put dhoti kurta, wear this clothes, like this, like this. But as we grow, the instructions we get, they become more like seeds. Seeds means that it is we get the seed, but we have to decide where to plant the seed. We have to decide how to water the seed, how best that seed will grow where. So for Srila Prabhupada, the instruction that he was got was speak in English, share Krishna message in English, share Krishna message in the Western world. Like, okay, where in the Western world? That's something which he had to decide. So sometimes if we grow spiritually and we expect that, we should still get instructions. Like it's a manual step, do this, go here and do this kind of programs. We start expecting micro instructions. That will lead to two problems. One is after some time we may feel suffocated. That, okay, I just don't have any autonomy. I don't have any space to use my creativity, my ability. On the other side, what will happen is we will also feel unsupported if we don't get guidance. Suppose the authority is not available to tell us, okay, do this, do this. And this became a big problem for many devotees after Prabhupada departed from the world. So, of course, during Prabhupada's time also, the devotees who came a little later, they didn't have direct association with Prabhupada. But those who came only pre-70, all of them had a direct relationship with Prabhupada almost. But what happened is, this is often a problem that, as we say, somebody works in the military. And in the military, if you're not the top brass, then almost everything you're told to do. Okay, you go and attack over here, use these weapons, don't do like this, don't like that. So now when people retire from the military, they may have a lot of courage. They have courage, but often they don't have initiative. Okay, if somebody is not telling me what to do, then what am I supposed to do? And many times, people who are veterans from the military, for them to reintegrate into society becomes very difficult. Because they are capable of doing heroic things. But what to do, that decision making, that capacity they may have lost. And sometimes it can happen like that for devotees. That if we start thinking that instruction always will mean like steps of a manual, do this, do this, do this. That will not be like that always. Now, Prabhupada, for example, every devotee who reads Prabhupada's books, they will feel the weight of Prabhupada's instruction that we should share Krishna consciousness. Now, exactly how we share, it is not that Prabhupada is going to come in our dream and telling us do this or don't do this. Or Prabhupada, our spiritual master or some very senior devotee is going to tell us like that. That is, we get various seeds of instructions from our spiritual master or from our spiritual guides or from Srila Prabhupada. So ultimately, it's not only we have to decide how to nourish and let the seed grow, but we also have to decide among the many seeds we get, which seed we want to grow first and which seed later. So for Prabhupada, there was no you could say feedback mechanism directly with his spiritual master. That so, but still he was completely dedicated to his service. So the idea is that when the puppet metaphor is there, it is Krishna, I am dedicated to your service. I am aligned with your will. Let's look at the last paragraph. Okay. Sorry, the second last paragraph. Oh, all attractive Lord. Who would like to read?
O all attractive Lord, Srila Prabhupada danced for your pleasure throughout his life, including 4 decades when hardly anyone noticed. He danced for your satisfaction, not for the world's
Adulation.
adulation. Even when his dance eventually inspired millions to join that divine movement, you always remained primarily for him and the world secondarily. For him, devotion was always more personal than public.
Yes. So there is a public aspect of devotion. That means what we are doing so that people become attracted. But there is a personal aspect of devotion that what we are doing for Krishna's pleasure. So both of these are important, but among them, the personal aspect is much more important. And this aspect is for Srila Prabhupada, it is very much evident in one sense that for him, the biggest public success he could have got, what he got when he went to America and he made thousands and thousands of Americans, Western people into devotees. And he came back to India. Now, I was talking about this idea of a seed and a. Now, Prabhupada's spiritual master had told him to share Krishna Bhakti in the West. And he did that. But around 1970s, 1970, 71, 72, that time you see, the number of talks of Srila Prabhupada where he said that it is a duty, he tells his disciples, it is the duty of the disciple to assist the spiritual master mm, in his vision. He says, my spiritual master wanted me to preach in the West. I did that. I want to preach in India. Now you help me in that. Now when Prabhupada said, I want to preach in India, now is he neglecting his spiritual master's instruction? No. What Prabhupada's vision was that in the West, uh, there were people who were becoming devotees, but the culture in the West was extremely different. And because of that, it would be like, let's put it this way. mm, if you're practicing bhakti, mm, now number of people practicing bhakti will be relatively few. mm. If we are practicing bhakti at one level, it's a, we as an individual are practicing bhakti. Now, when we are practicing bhakti, it's best if we are a part of a community. Hmm? Then what happens? If it's a community, then the community acts like a safety net. Even if we fall, then it protects us. So I was giving one class in America, and there's a temple leader over there. He was attending the class. He's very dynamic. He really shakes people up completely whenever he goes and gives classes. So he was telling the community is not meant to be a safety net. He said it's meant to be a trampoline. you, you know what is a trampoline? Trampoline is if you fall, you rise up from there. So the community is not just meant to protect you, the community is meant to push you up again. So the idea is that we need to have a larger community. Now, but at the same time, this larger community is going to be a part of the broader culture. Hmm? Now, the broader culture, if we consider, there always has to be some distance between any religious spiritual group and the broader society. If there is no difference between the two, then why should anyone be a part of that group? Or what are we offering that is different from the world? If say we are only giving self-help talks, if we are only giving motivational talks, there are some talks in which we will not speak about Krishna. That's required in some audiences. We not directly mention Krishna. But if we are only speaking that which other people in the world are speaking, then if there is no distinctive difference between us, then we are not representing our tradition. Hmm? But if there is too much distance between us, and the rest of the world. Then what happens? Then it's almost like we are treated like a cult. And it's just, if too much tension between a religious group and a mainstream society, it creates a lot of tension, anxiety, insecurity. So, because ultimately we are a part of the mainstream society. If the mainstream society starts suspecting these people are weird people, these people are dangerous people, these people are all irresponsible. If the mainstream society has a lot of negative conceptions about us, or the mainstream society's values are radically opposed to our values, there's some opposition is there, but the radical opposition is there, then it's almost like a constant war going on. And that is not a sustainable state. So there is to be basically what? There needs to be like a healthy tension between the two. Healthy tension means that we are not like other people, but at the same time, we are not so different from them that other people can't even understand what we are doing. See, there is a difference between what we are doing being acceptable or appealing. Hmm? Much of what we do may not be acceptable, but it needs at least to be intelligible. Hmm? Intelligible means intelligible. Sorry, that it's I understand what you are doing. Hmm? So if what we are doing is not intelligible, as I said, people will start thinking we are going crazy. Hmm? So say for example, if we become devotees and then our practice of bhakti, the extent to which practice, it may not be acceptable for our family, but it should at least be intelligible. Okay, I understand what you're doing. I would much rather you don't do this or you don't do it so much. So what happens if it is not even intelligible, then there is constant aggressive fighting. So what happened, what Prabhupada noticed is that if you consider the West, between the devotee community and the Western society, the distance was huge. Because at least in those times, there was no model, because bhakti culture was so radically different from the mainstream Western culture that if somebody left the devotee community, how to practice bhakti in the outside world is almost impossible. One devotee showed me a TV series excerpt from 1970s, 1960s, 70s. So one American is asking another American, "Are you a vegetarian?" Another, "I'm an American." The idea is, if you're an American, obviously you can't be a vegetarian. It was like that. Now it is not like that now. But the point is that it is very difficult. So if the distance is too much, it becomes a problem. So this was the situation in the West. And if you consider India, it is like, as most people will not be Krishna conscious, but you can say the distance is not that much. Hmm? The distance is less. So if the distance is too much, it will not be sustainable. So Prabhupada didn't want just to go and give a few classes and inspire some people to become devotees. Prabhupada wanted that a legacy be created which will go on for multiple generations. And the foundation for that would have to be in India. And that's Prabhupada felt that when his Western devotees would come to India, they would be nourished over here. They would be nourished by not just by going to the holy places, but by nourished by seeing also how this is practiced to some degree by a large number of people also. And that's why it was in pursuance of his spiritual master's instruction that Prabhupada shifted his focus to India. And in the last several years, he focused on India. He was focusing on building temples in India. And the idea was that the spiritual master's instruction is like a seed. And how to nourish the seed, that the spiritual master might tell, then some person might tell, okay, you take this plant and you grow it over here. And now we say, okay, growing it over means just stay right next to that and provide water every day over there. That's true. But if that plant requires a particular kind of soil to be nourished, at least some layer of topsoil. Then we may have to travel 1,000 miles to get that soil. We are going away from that plant, but we are actually doing something for that plant. So, like that, Prabhupada, in one sense, he wanted to preach in India, but even to nourish his preaching in America, he needed a foundation in India. So, the point I'm again making is that when we say that make me dance like a puppet, it's not to take away our intelligence or initiative, it is to align our intention. Mm. So, when we talk about the puppet metaphor, we'll conclude with this in the last paragraph now. Puppet metaphor, it is not indicating elimination of intelligence or initiative. Hmm? It is not elimination of intelligence, it is harmonization of intention. It is my intention is harmonized with yours. That's why we know that there are the three levels of disciples or students, the Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama. The Kanishta neither follows the word nor the intent. The Madhyama follows the word and may or may not understand the intent. The Uttama sometimes may neglect the word, but it follows the intent, honors the intent. So when Prabhupada went to the West, in one sense he was acting at the Madhyama level. Whatever spiritual master had told, he was doing it. But when he started focusing on India, it was at the Uttama level that to carry out the instruction of my spiritual master, how can I do that? That I need to do what is required. So there is the letter of the instruction and there is the spirit of the instruction. So spirit we could say is the intent of the instruction. So we could say both is no, that's a big problem. That is Kanishta. You can say it's pre-Kanishta also. So we could call it if both is no is pre-Kanishta. Then Kanishta would be just yes to the letter, they don't know the spirit at all. The Madhyama actually understand the letter and starts understanding the spirit. The Uttama, what happens? Uttama may sometimes not follow the letter to stick to the spirit. Now we shouldn't think we are all at Uttama level. But this principle is there. So the puppet is the idea is about that we were aligned in will. Okay, let's read the last paragraph. Who would like to read?
Bless me, my Lord, to dance for your pleasure, when none notice and when many do. May my life ever remain a dance choreographed by you, for you and with you.
Yes. By you is, that means ultimately, it is Krishna's mission we are trying to do. For you is, it is Krishna's pleasure. And with you means that eventually Krishna's presence becomes more and more real and bigger for us. Initially, the world is very big. Eventually, Krishna becomes bigger and bigger for us. In that way, we can become more and more immersed in Krishna consciousness. So, Srila Prabhupada, the movement has spread very widely now. Now, it's very easy at one level. I spent some good amount of time in the West. I spent a good time in India also, amount of time. So one thing I notice is in the West, people may feel that there is not much of a community because America is say, a huge country and we have devotees, but there are a small number of devotees scattered all over the world. So we feel okay, there's not that too much of a big community. But in India, when there's so much of a community that whereas in the West we may feel unsupported, in India we may feel invisible. That okay, there are so many devotees doing so many services. This is one challenge when devotees when they come from America to India, they ask me should I come return here or not. Tell them that it's not just a matter of location, it's a matter of engagement also. So sometimes in the if there's a temple where there are so many things which are not being done, then it's very easy to take up some service. But there are so many devotees doing so many things, then what happens? Okay, what do I do? So Now, sometimes even if we don't do something, it is not a big problem. It may seem like that. In the sense that it's not that things are not going to fall apart. See, for example, if we have DT worship save, and if we don't do DT worship, then it's going to be a serious problem. Mhm. So we have to do it, we have to get someone else to do it. But suppose we are in a particular area and we want to start preaching in that area. And now, whether we start or not, what difference does it make? It's not that if we start a program and we stop the program, it's not going to be like the way DT worship stopping is. People will notice. People will. It's a serious issue in the sense it's a lapse of standards. But many services require our own initiative. So for us, if we are given a service, we do it wholeheartedly. At the same time, we also use our intelligence. And we need to find out, okay, how can I serve Krishna? That we also need to take that initiative. So broadly, if we say we be Prabhupada conscious or Srila Prabhupada's mercy, how do we see that? If somebody has got Prabhupada's mercy, there are many ways. It's not just how many Prabhupada katha they speak. It's not just how sweetly they sing Prabhupada's Guru Puja. All those are nice. But it is primarily how much a sense of purpose and a sense of urgency they have. Mhm. That Prabhupada had a sense of purpose. It's an international society for Krishna consciousness. So how much a sense of purpose do I have and how much a sense of urgency I have? Not just, oh yeah, yes, we have to become Krishna conscious and I have the rest of eternity. It's not like that. A sense of purpose and a sense of urgency. If we have those two things, this is what Srila Prabhupada himself had. Prabhupada once said that I have got the legacy, I have inherited the legacy of my spiritual master. Now, in one sense, Prabhupada did not get any temples, Prabhupada did not get any followers, Prabhupada did not get any funds. When his godbrothers had gone to UK, their entire mission was funded by the Gaudiya Math from India. When Prabhupada went, he did not get any funds from India. So when Prabhupada said, I have inherited the legacy of my spiritual master, what is that legacy? That legacy was primarily the desire to glorify Krishna. And from that desire to glorify Krishna, everything else came. From that, books came. From that, temples came. From that, Rath Yatras and Janmashtamis came. From that, thousands and thousands of devotees came eventually. So, Srila Prabhupada's mercy is that the desire to glorify Krishna that's the purpose we have. And it's not that desire to glorify Krishna 50 years down, 20 years down the line. Right now, that sense of urgency. So, that if to the extent we see some devotees who have it, we can say that they have Krishna's mercy, and we, by associating with them, we can get that Krishna's mercy, we can get that Prabhupada's mercy, and that way we all can contribute in Srila Prabhupada's mission. For us, sometimes our stage might be just our home, or just we and one or two people around us. Our stage might be thousands of people. It doesn't matter. If we can get a bigger stage, we seek a bigger stage, but we focus on the bigger purpose that I'm doing this for Krishna's pleasure. And that's how Srila Prabhupada served throughout his life. And Krishna, on a small stage or a large stage, he was always serving. Prabhupada was always glorifying Krishna. So I'll summarize what we discussed today. Today, we are primarily discussing about this theme of aligning with Krishna's will. I took the when we talk about various metaphors. So I talk about the puppet metaphor, what it means and what it does not mean. The puppet metaphor, I talk about what it means is that we have free will, and the free will, it is not to be abandoned. Hmm? It is, it doesn't want to become robots. It is to be aligned as a expression of love. So when we express our love, Krishna doesn't want us to become like a robot, like a parent doesn't want to replace the child with a robot. Then we talked about how understanding Krishna's will. So we want to align with Krishna's will. So Krishna's will is not necessarily like a narrow path or a thin line. It is more like a broad direction. Now, initially, it may be important that that when we get instructions, initially it may seem like it's a thin line. No, we have to like this way, do this way, this way. So initially we may get specific to dos like in a manual, but eventually what we'll get is like seeds. It is we who have to develop the seeds, and as we take the initiative. So the idea is that in both cases, if we are dancing on a stage, so for us, the audience is important, no doubt. But for us, Krishna, there's a reciprocation with the audience and there's a reciprocation with Krishna. And the reciprocation with Krishna is what is primary for us. And then lastly, we talked about how the outreach, what it means and how it happens. That when we are trying to share Krishna Bhakti, we are individuals. We need around us a community. And the community needs a culture that is, there is a healthy tension between the two. Hmm? So, this is the individual practicing bhakti, this is the community. And we could say, is the community of devotees. And then there is the broader society of devotees. So I talked about how all these three relationships. At Prabhupada in the West, what happened between the community and the society? There was too much distance. There's a huge distance in the West. That's why Prabhupada focused on India. Now, similarly, we also talked about how between the individual and the community, there needs to be a healthy distance. That if the individual becomes invisible in the community, then there is a problem. They feel I have nothing to do over here. But the individual goes too far away from the community, then they feel unsupported. So the legacy, Srila Prabhupada's legacy for all of us is essentially the desire to glorify Krishna. That Krishna is such a wonderful Lord. I want to become attracted to him and I want others to be attracted to him. So this is the sense of purpose, and not the sense of purpose, but with a sense of urgency. That this has to be done and it has to be done now. It has to be done soon. So that is the legacy that we can pray to Srila Prabhupada that he can also bless us with. Nachao, nachao Prabhu, nachao se mate, kashtera puttali jata, nachao se mate. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Is there any quick question? Yes.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu. Thank you very much. The puppet metaphor, what it is not and what it is, was really eye-opening.
Sorry, which one?
The puppet metaphor,
Puppet,
what
yeah.
it is not and what it is was really eye-opening. My question is, for us right now, we are trying to understand what is Prabhupada's will, uh, more than Krishna's will. Means how Prabhupada wanted to spread Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission. So in that sense, Prabhupada had many aspects of his personality in many ways in which he instructed. And when we are understanding and serving in the community, each perception, there is subjectivity in understanding it. So each perception may not be the same. So in that sense, how do we work in together in cooperation, not come sometimes against or go in a very wronger proportions like that?
Yeah, that's a. How do we stay in harmony while we are working in a community? Because different devotees may also be inspired by different aspects of Prabhupada. So sometimes we use the word Prabhupada's mood and mission. Now we use those two words sometimes together, but my understanding is they are different. Like Prabhupada had one mission, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So spreading Krishna consciousness was a mission, but he had many moods. Hmm. So, for example, when Prabhupada said, where should we have temples? It should be in the cities. Like, where should be a hospital? Where there are the most patients. But then Prabhupada also said that we want to have farm communities where we just live close to nature. So these two are almost opposite. On one side, Prabhupada said modern education like a spiritual slaughterhouse. But then Prabhupada was very pleased when devotees arranged for scholars to come and meet with him and talk with him. So the idea was that, yes, it is at one level a spiritual slaughterhouse, but within that system, if somebody has succeeded, if somebody has got to the top, they have some ability, they have some intelligence. So if you can influence them, they are at some level the influencers. So what happens is that if we consider Prabhupada's mission to be like the mega umbrella, now within that, different devotees may pick up one or two umbrellas. Somebody focus on building temples, somebody on youth outreach, somebody on maybe Bhagavatam study. So if we understand that there are many moods possible, then we won't spend so much time in criticizing each other. You are not following Prabhupada. You are not following Prabhupada. Yes, we may not be. They may not be following that particular mood of Prabhupada, but they're following the mission of Prabhupada. I remember one, I was in America, and one Prabhupada disciple, he's himself a guru and sannyas. He was joking with me about fanaticism. He said, I went to see one of my god brothers, and he has his home, and he showed me the room, and he showed me around, and now this god brother is a grahastha, he's a sannyasi, but this god brother is like a hardline follower of Prabhupada. So he showed me the restroom. He said, this is a restroom, and here there's a shower, but Prabhupada never used a shower. So I have kept a bucket for you. Follow Prabhupada and use a bucket. Now, that is a minor detail, is it? Is it that Prabhupada loved kachoris? So all ISKCON devotees should love kachoris. If you love anything else, you're deviating from Prabhupada. No, not like that. So what happens is that there different devotees may take up different moods in the following of Srila Prabhupada. So that's why if we understand there are different ways to serve, we can live. Maybe we are not inspired to serve that way, but we don't have to say that the other person is a deviant. That's one point. And the second point is, in general, in any institutional setup or any collective setup, if there's any collective setup, we will never get two things together. On one side is autonomy. Autonomy means like freedom. And the other is facility. So we won't get both together. That means what? That if, say, I decide, if I came here and I told, I have studied Tattva Sandarbha, I want to teach Tattva Sandarbha. Now, okay, devotees or people could organize one or two classes for me. But if I say, I want to go to IISc and I will speak Tattva Sandarbha over there, that will not work, isn't it? If I want to speak in IISc and he's providing the facility for me to do that, or I'm going to IIM and he will provide me the facility for that, then I have to agree with what is the purpose over there. Right? So the problem comes when we want facility and freedom both. Now, wanting freedom is not a problem. So if I study Tattva Sandarbha, I want to teach Tattva Sandarbha, nobody's stopping me from teaching that. But then I have to create my own facility for that. Maybe I start an online class, I do publicity, people join for that class. So often, if somebody is in leadership position, it's not that they have done something to be in the leadership position, and then they will be deciding how the resources, how the facilities will be used. That they have a vision, they have a priority. So now, if what really becomes a problem is that if we want to be a part of a collective, but we are constantly disrupting the collective. That means the collective has a particular vision. This is how things are to be done, and we are constantly criticizing, sabotaging that. No, if we feel this is not what I feel inspired to do, then okay, we can respectfully move a little distance and we can create our own facility. So if we understand this principle that we won't get both together, so then I think much of the tension can be avoided. So if we want facility, then in one sense we need to cooperate. If we want autonomy, then we can cooperate. Cooperate means you operate here, I'll operate there. So, but we don't have to criticize each other. We don't have to say that you are deviating from Prabhupada, I alone am following Prabhupada. No, I am following Prabhupada as per my inspiration. You are following Prabhupada as per your inspiration. Okay? Yes, Prabhupada. Okay.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for the wonderful class. I mean, there was so much of insights were there. And Prabhuji, my question is with respect to the seed, the instructions given by the spiritual master, and how the disciple takes it forward. So it's in that. So where what you said made a lot of sense. And I was actually listening to another lecture, I think by His Grace Radhesham Prabhu. So where he's talking about uh, paroksha jnana and aparoksha jnana. So is this what, I mean, can we take this as aligning there or am I way off?
Okay, so can this idea of, are you connecting paroksha and aparoksha with which part? The seed and the direct?
Yeah, yes. Where you build on the instruction and then move further. Sometimes it might be that you end up doing something diametrically opposite, like in the example of Prabhupada coming to India.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
But
so see, in general, in bhakti, there are two distinct aspects to bhakti. There is the rational aspect of bhakti, and there is the mystical aspect of bhakti. I'll explain what I mean by mystical is that, say, it is purity is the force. For example, when you see. Now, yes, purity is the force, but is purity the only force? If it were the only force, then was Prabhupada was not pure for the first 30 years when he was trying to preach bhakti in India? Is it when Prabhupada went to the land of the impure America, then he became pure? No. So purity is the force, but it is not the only force. So if somebody is trying to preach and they are not getting success, should they think that I am not pure? Yes, I can try to become purified, but purification may take a long time. Does that mean that I will not be successful till I become pure? No, we may also have to look at practical things. That, okay, maybe I'm going to a particular place where people are just not interested. Or maybe I'm speaking in a way, maybe I'm speaking too much philosophy and people are more interested in katha. Or I'm speaking simple points and people are a little more intellectual, they need more sophisticated explanation over it. So what happens is that there's the rational aspect and there's the mystical aspect. So in general, my focus is always on the rational aspect. The mystical is, we acknowledge it, it's important. But the mystical is, it's very difficult for us to do anything about it. What can we do about it? So in that sense, the paroksha and the aparoksha, the way it is understood, sometimes it can be like a very rational understanding that the same Krishna can inspire us directly, Krishna can inspire us indirectly. But if aparoksha means something like a mystical revelation, so Krishna came in a dream and told me to do something. Well, that can happen, but aparoksha can also mean that we have a broad learning attitude. So Prabhupada heard from his spiritual master. His spiritual master encouraged him to write. But what to write? A postman told him that, Swami, if you write magazines, people will throw it away. If you write books, people will keep them. He said, yeah, this makes sense. So we could say that Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur encouraging him to write is direct, it's paroksha. A postman telling him to write books, not magazines, that is a paroksha. He saw that this is my guru speaking, this is Krishna speaking. So in that sense, we could say having a learning attitude will be very helpful. So this seed is given, how do I water the seed? That we can learn from many places. Many times when devotees are to make big strategic decisions. Nowadays, say if we want to open a youth center, or not youth center, maybe if we want to open a youth retreat center, we want to do something, then we may see how other organizations are doing that. And we may learn from them. So now there are our DT worship is so good, some other organizations come to us to learn DT worship. So this is Prabhupada, in fact, got the name GBC from the Indian Railways. So see, the Indian Railways, the British established railway in India, but the British had never done anything of this scale. So Britain is a tiny country as compared to India. So and there were no phones and nothing like that. So the British, the administration of the Indian Railways was done by what they call as the GBC. The exact term same was it. They had the called governing body commission. And they had divided the Indian railways into various zones, and they would have zonal leaders. So Prabhupada took that institutional mechanism from that. Now Bhaktivedanta Thakur himself had suggested something, but Prabhupada implemented more tangibly. So we can learn from various places.
So follow-up question.
Yeah. Yes, yeah, please.
So Paroksha and Aparoksha is more on the mystical side, not necessarily so. That's what
That's
I
what I'm saying.
gather.
It can be on the mystical side, but it doesn't
should
have
be
to.
on the rational side is where
Yeah.
we have most of our discussion, which is okay. Just this question, this prompts me to ask you, like Ramanujacharya and Goshti Purna, there is this famous example where he got the instructions, then he went and then he was told not to give it, and then he went ahead and then he gave it.
Yeah.
So where will that fall? I mean, I'm just asking.
I think that is the Uttama level.
Correct.
Yeah.
But would it be mystical or would it be that?
I don't know if it falls in that categorization necessarily, because see, it's more like I'm talking about this in terms of the source of the instruction. There, it's more of the implementation of the instruction. So, I mean, Prabhupada's deciding to focus on India rather than the West. I won't say that's mystical. That's rational only, but it's a different kind of rational. It's a rationality which goes deeper. So that'll also be rational only. I think, in every tradition, there is always a tension. Like I said, that every tradition, there is a tension between preservation and propagation. Now we may say they have two parts of the same thing, but they're not exactly the same. So, for example, if we have a proper temple, we'll have certain deity worship standards over there. Who can worship the deity? How many times you have done arti? Now, if you have an extension center, then what is happening? That's propagation. And propagation necessarily will require lowering of some standards. So in an extension center, we may just do one arti in a day, or sometimes we may just have, like in America, most temples are like weekend temples. So basically, we may even do deity worship if we don't have paid pujaris. The temple itself is open on the weekend. So now that is a lowering of the standard, but that is required for propagation. So there's, for reaching out to a larger number of people, we need to adjust some standards, and we also need to protect the standards. So in one sense, when Ramacharya's guru is also telling him, don't give the mantra to everyone, it's not that he is uncompassionate, that there is a certain level of preservation. So now, for example, Hare Krishna mantra we sing publicly, but I think it happened a few years ago that there was some very sensual song in Bollywood, and like all kind of sensual dancing, and in between there was Hare Krishna Hare Ram in that song. So now there's a bit of outrage among devotees. Should we sue them? What should we do about them? That was the time before this whole Hindutva wave had come. So now most producers will be a little concerned about doing that because they will get some backlash. But at that time, we didn't have much influence. So now if we give the Hare Krishna mantra in public, then what people do with the Hare Krishna mantra, we cannot control that. Or to what extent can we control that? Like in the Jewish tradition, it is said that the tetragram that the name of God is so sacred that it cannot even be uttered. So now what does it mean? That means that they don't want not all names of God, but one particular name of God there, that it should not even be uttered. So the idea is that there is protection. So for example, we also have that only Brahmanas should go on the altar. That's preservation. But then we want this propagation, everybody can become a Brahman. Now, if preservation becomes too much, we go far away from society. Like the caste Brahmana came up, and some people will never be able to worship the deity. So on the other hand, now, if we go too much into propagation, then we get too much into society, and we may lose our standards. So that's why that tension, we have to find a balance. So I think in that particular dynamic, Ramacharya was focusing more on propagation, his guru was focusing more on preservation. So both are in their own way trying to serve Krishna, but with different focuses.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Last question. Stop.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, very nice set of words you have chosen. Very clear session. So my question is that many times, like when some new devotee comes and join the community, so he get to practice like we have to chant 2 hours, read Bhagavat, and hear most of the lecture. But when someone tries to question this, like why we are doing, so everyone gives the answer like we have to achieve Krishna prem. We are not in this world. We have to go that world also. So my question is that when some like modern youth comes and how he can be aligned, like when he joins the devotee community, and like everyone is like doing sadhana and like very ritualistic ritual forms, but as a modern youth he did not align with the goals. So the question is the alignment of goals, like how a modern youth or how one can align with the goals, because when we ask seniors,
Yeah.
they also say same.
I don't know how I'll align with the goal of completing the class on time now. Okay, I'll just quickly explain as briefly as I can. See, when people come to Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada said that preaching with realization means that the message of scripture has to be presented in a way which is interesting for the audience. He speaks about this in the 1.4.1, that it is, we shouldn't speak something which is outside scripture, but at the same time we should be able to speak in a way that interests the audience. So now finding this intersection is important for each one of us. And now, because there's not one audience, there are different audiences. So for different audiences, we need to be able to find out what interests them. So now, say here, if everybody is already practicing bhakti, we will talk about devotion more directly. If I go to a college like IISc, IIM, that people are not already practicing bhakti. Many of them, it's not that they're interested in bhakti. We have to get them interested in bhakti. So there we may talk something a little more about the challenges they face, about how insecurity or stress or depression or whatever, something like that. So now, to what extent can we go in addressing the interests of the audience? Now, broadly, there have been, you could say, 3 visions of the relationship between spiritual life and material life. Now, here, like to differentiate, but there's material life and there is materialistic life. They're not the same thing. Material life is I have a family, I have a job, I have a career, I have social respect. But materialistic life is where pursuing material things is the primary thing. So material life is like grahastha, materialistic life is the grahameti. It's a difference. So the relationship between spiritual life and material life, we can have broadly 3 visions. One is rejection. That material life is temporary, spiritual life is eternal. This world is a place of misery. Get out of this, go to the spiritual world. But the second is complementation. Complementation is that both are important. Yeah, material life is important, but you also need spiritual life. Now, third is improvement. Improvement means that your spiritual life will improve your material life. That most popular spiritual teachers are at this level. Though they will talk about how, like, why is mindfulness so popular? It is not that people want to become spiritual. People just want to become calmer. They want to have less stress. They want to have better relationships or better way of coping with their emotions. So now, traditionally, if you see ISKCON, focus was here, rejection. That's why I talked about Prabhupada's disciples. They left the whole world, they left their family, they left everything that they were doing, and they focused on uh, dedicating their life to Krishna consciousness. So we could say Srila Prabhupada's Western followers were here, and because they primarily carried on the mission, so that became almost like the standard for ISKCON. But during Prabhupada's time itself, there were the Indian life members. For them, practically none of them rejected their life. They had their business, they had their families. Many times they even had their own spirituality. Many of the life members were already initiate disciples of some Mayavadi gurus and other things. But they appreciated what Prabhupada had done in spreading Indian culture all over the world. And they wanted to assist Prabhupada, and Prabhupada engaged them. So the point is complementation. Okay, you have your material life, you have your spiritual life also. So that is also there. Now we could say that ISKCON is, so those who are, you could say, brahmacharis are mostly in this level. Those who are grahasthas will be in this level. So to some extent, uh, right now the way it is that rejecting is considered higher. Complementing is okay. If you need to do it, you do it. But if we want to be successful in society at large, like what did Bhaktivinoda Thakur say? He said one vision of success was that when will people from all over the world come and dance and chant Jai Sachinandan in Mayapur. But another vision of success he had was that when will the high court judges be wearing Vaishnav tilak? Now it's interesting the way he phrased it. I read that carefully. I asked devotees who know Bengali also. I know a little bit, but not so much. But what it is not saying that when will the high court judges chant Hare Krishna? What he is saying is when the high court judges will be wearing Vaishnav tilak. What he means by that is that bhakti will become so respectable in society and bhaktas will be so responsible and successful in society that they can openly wear their Vaishnav tilak and have responsible positions and people will have no hesitation. So that is also one vision where devotees become successful in their own careers. And so that complementation is not contrary to bhakti. So I would say that there are a significant number of youth who will become very dedicated. Just okay, mostly give up material life, focus only on sharing Krishna consciousness. But there will be many more who may not be ready for that. Hmm. So can we accommodate them also? And if we do, how do we do that? Now, beyond complementation is also improvement. Now, did Prabhupada do that? Very slightly. For example, Prabhupada said that I went to America with 40 rupees and now I have temples worth 40 crores. Doing business with Krishna is a very profitable business. Now we say this is almost like karma kanda, isn't it? But it's not because it is Krishna centered. So if we talk about primarily or exclusively about self-help, well, we can do that if there is a mechanism by which we can keep getting people upwards. If not towards rejection, at least towards complementation. Now, of course, it may be Manushanam Sahasreshu. 1,000 people might hear a self-help talk, and from that, maybe 1 or 5 people or 10 people might hear a spiritual talk directly. So I would say that again, that autonomy and facility, each community will have a particular vision of what they are trying to do. Now, so we may have some forums where we cultivate serious devotees, and we may have some forums where we cultivate supporters. So both are required, and different devotees may be inspired to do different things. So if we very strongly feel that this is not being done, this is what should be done, then we don't disrupt the existing system that is doing something. We, with guidance, with blessings, we try to do some other service. But all three can be within the vision of Krishna consciousness. It is not only rejection is required for Krishna consciousness. Yes, Krishna consciousness. So if tomorrow somebody is a sports player, somebody wants to be a cricketer, and they also want to be a devotee. Somebody wants to be a movie star and they want to be a devotee. Now, how are they going to find that balance? It's going to be difficult. But yesterday, one devotee was asking me that, I want to pursue IAS, UPSC, but I feel that I will not be able to practice bhakti with it. So then I told him that, do you mean to say that Krishna has made bhakti so difficult that for all time in eternity, nobody who becomes a devotee will ever be able to become an IAS officer? Is Krishna bhakti so impractical that that whole influential demographic will never be able to part of it? Now, how exactly they will be able to do it? That each devotee will have to use one's own individual discretion. Ideally, If some senior devotee has been in that direction, we take guidance from them. And then we move forward. So George Harrison, Prabhupada did not tell him to give up music. In fact, Prabhupada told him to write Krishna songs. And what happened? He just started writing only Krishna songs. And in New York, there's a famous Madison Square Avenue. He was doing a performance over there. And thousands of people coming to hear music from him. He told them, chant Hare Krishna. And they started booing on him and they started throwing beer bottles on him. And
the painter close பண்ணு சரிமா the painter close பண்ணு
that this George Harrison was such a rare musical talent. He got involved with this Hare Krishna cult and the world has lost such a precious talent. And then he met Prabhupada and he said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, you told me to write Krishna songs and attract people to Krishna. But I feel that for every one person I'm bringing closer to Krishna, 10 people I'm pushing away from Krishna. Or 10 people are going away from Krishna. So to understand this, or let's take an example. Say if there's an India-Pakistan cricket match, maybe World Cup final. And say maybe the top cricketer, say Virat Kohli is a devotee. And India loses that match. And then the post-match interview is there. They ask, why did India lose this match? And Virat Kohli says, you know, win, loss, all this is temporary. Just chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Now, you cannot imagine a more dangerous or damaging form of anti-preaching. If you are a cricketer, you have to do your job as a cricketer. Your bhakti will be a supplement to that, not a replacement for that. Isn't it? So if somebody, so the idea is that whatever we are doing, we each one of us will have to find out. So Prabhupada told George Harrison, okay, he said mix it up. That you don't have to write all songs about Krishna. You find a balance, Prabhupada told him. Prabhupada did not give him specific, this is how you have to find a balance. And then he again started writing the kind of songs he was writing, like mostly romantic kind of songs. And then within those romantic songs, he would bring in some spirituality. So if some of his like post 19th, late 1970s songs, if you see, there's like it's a the songs are having romance, but is the object of romance a girl or is it God? You know, he keeps it sort of ambiguous over there. So some places in a few songs you directly bring in Krishna or bring in God. Otherwise, he did not bring back. And then all the newspapers and the magazines they says, oh, George Harrison has come out of this Hare Krishna cult. And he has come back now. So he had to find his own balance. So in that sense, not only we as an institution in terms of outreach, but each individual in terms of their particular place in society, they have to find out, you know, how they can balance what they are doing with what they are doing currently with what is their ultimate aspiration in life. Okay, so I think we'll talk one to one if you don't mind. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna Guruji. Thank you very much for helping us understand the mission and mode of vision and mission of Srila Prabhupada in such a very wonderful graphic ways and through the beautiful explanation of the poem which Prabhupada had written. So very grateful to you. So thank you very much. Please come again and give your association. So in this visit, we could have only 2 classes. Of course, tomorrow you're coming to IIM, but come again for more days and give your association. Thank you. So let's thank Prabhuji by once chanting Hare Krishna mantra from the core of our heart. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Prabhuji's health is not keeping well, but still we can see his enthusiasm and clarity with which Prabhuji is giving this Krishna consciousness. So thank you very much, Prabhuji. So I'd like to also welcome devotees from Delhi. So His Grace Gopi Prabhu, Ishwar Prabhu, and many other brahmacharis who are on South India tour. So they are here for a day, 2 days in Bangalore.
Then they'll go into many other holy places in South India. So let's welcome them also by chanting once Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Krishna Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Hare,
Hare
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 Rama,
Rama Hare
Hare Rama,
Rama
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 Rama,
Rama
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. So Prabhuji
Jai
has written
Prabhu.
this book, Prabhupada's Prayers. I think some of you already have it in your hands. Those who wish to buy, you can pay to Yatish Prabhu. It's 200 rupees. And Prabhuji will be happy to sign for 5 minutes. He is available. Hare Krishna.
Is this
Thank you.
projection on by any chance? Can you turn on the projector? So in case, see, I have spoken on all the verses of the Markine Bhagavad Dharma. So I just give it to you. I'll give you a QR code. Any of you would like to hear the classes on the remaining verses? Okay. Just tell me books. So this is a QR code. If any of you would, I think there are about 10, 12 classes over here. I wanted to do one class on each verse, but sometimes we have done 2 classes on each verse. So this was before I wrote the book. So I'm not reading from the book verse by verse, but the broad diving into the prayers, this is there over here. So this is the Markine Bhagavad Dharma, this book you saw already. And this is, you are not your mind, you are better. This is 64 articles on different verses from the Bhagavad Gita, especially talking about the mind, and each of them has some attractive, clear illustrations, like I was drawing conceptographic diagrams. So this is especially, if Prabhupada would focus, you are not your body. But what I found is many people find telling them you are not your body seems very remote, abstract, philosophical. To tell people you're not your mind, everybody's troubled by their mind. And if they understand I'm not my mind, they also understand I'm not my body. But it's a way more indirect way, which is more relatable for them. So what exactly is the mind? How is it different from the brain? How is it different from consciousness? Why does the mind remember more negative things than positive? Why does the mind seem to oppose us? Why has God given us a mind which seems to trouble us so much? So 64 questions like that have been answered in this book. So both these books are available, and I'll be here for a few minutes if you want books to be sent. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Kindly post that QR code in the chat box, Prabhu.
So I didn't